The morning sunlight spilled through the tall windows of Crestwood High as the hallways buzzed with the usual chaos of slamming lockers, echoing laughter, and the low hum of students dragging their half-awake bodies toward first period. But none of that noise mattered to Amelia Hart, the quiet 14-year-old girl whose wheelchair moved silently across the polished floor as she navigated the crowded corridor with the slow confidence of someone who had learned to adapt to the world rather than expected to adapt to her. Amelia had been born with a neuromuscular condition that weakened her legs, but not her fire, and though she kept her gaze low and her headphones in, she'd always carried an inner strength that people never saw until it was too late. Unfortunately, Crestwood High had its share of people who mistook quietness for weakness, and leading that pack was Brock Tanner, a 17-year-old walking slab of muscle with a cruel smirk, a mean streak as long as his football record, and a burning need to dominate every hallway he walked through. Brock had a reputation. He tripped freshmen on the stairs, knocked books out of hands, shoved kids aside at their lockers, and the teachers often looked the other way because his father, Grant Tanner, was head of the school board and one of those men who thought good grades and good behavior were optional as long as you were good at football, which Brock absolutely was. Today, Brock's ego was already boiling because Coach Howard had benched him that morning for skipping weight practice, so he stomped through the hallway like a storm cloud looking for a lightning rod to strike, and unfortunately for Amelia, she was the closest target. She saw him too late. One moment she was adjusting her backpack strap, the next she saw Brock's shadow towering over her as he sneered, "Move, Wheels," and before she could even turn her chair away his boot swung forward and struck the small metal footplate of her wheelchair with enough force to send the entire chair jolting backward, crashing into the lockers with a metallic bang that echoed through the hall and silenced dozens of conversations in an instant. Amelia gasped, pain shooting through her back as students froze, some whispering, some laughing nervously, but none stepping forward because Brock was the kind of bully who made an example of anyone who tried to be a hero. As Amelia struggled to steady herself, Brock chuckled a low, satisfied sound that oozed cruelty, and said, "Oops, my bad," with that fake innocence he used whenever teachers weren't around. Her backpack slid from her lap, scattering books, pencils, and a photo of her and her older brother Ryder across the hallway, the picture landing face up and catching the attention of a few students who recognized him. Ryder Hart, the quiet senior from 2 years ago, the kid who vanished right after graduation when he was taken in by the Iron Guardians Motorcycle Brotherhood, a feared but respected biker organization known throughout the state for their brutal loyalty and strict honor code. Brock bent down and snatched the photo off the floor, squinting at it before grinning wickedly. Well, if it isn't Ryder Hart, didn't he run away to join that biker gang? Figures. Guess toughness doesn't run in the family. He held the picture between his fingers as if deciding whether to snap it in half, and Amelia reached out desperately, her voice cracking as she said, "Give it back, Brock, please," but that only fueled his amusement. He mocked her begging tone, waving the picture just out of reach before tossing it farther down the hall, and Amelia felt tears sting her eyes, not from the fall, but from the humiliation of being powerless in front of so many people. A few kids recorded the scene on their phones, whispering things like, "Oh man, he's dead if the bikers see this," but most simply backed away, wanting no involvement. Brock stepped closer again, raising his foot as if to kick the wheelchair a second time, but suddenly the hallway lights flickered, followed by the distant, unmistakable roar of dozens of motorcycle engines rumbling through the front parking lot like an approaching thunderstorm. At first, students thought it was construction or some kind of drill, but the sound grew louder. Dozens of engines, deep, roaring, aggressive, and the floor vibrated beneath them, causing Brock's smirk to falter for the first time as he lowered his foot and glanced toward the front entrance. Whispers rose like sparks. Is that bikes? Who rides in a whole pack? Oh no, is that the Iron Guardians? And then came the moment that froze every person in Crestwood High. The double glass doors at the main entrance slammed open as over 40 black-clad bikers marched in formation across the courtyard, their leather jackets bearing the unmistakable winged skull emblem of the Iron Guardians, their boots stomping the pavement in unified rhythm, their helmets reflecting the sun like polished obsidian, and leading the front row was Ryder Hart himself, older now, harder, his once boyish face sharpened into the fierce expression of someone who had seen the world's darker corners and survived them. The principal, who had rushed to the entrance demanding to know what was going on, froze mid-sentence as Ryder brushed past him without a glance, the entire biker crew following him with the intimidating silence of a disciplined army. Students pressed against the walls as teachers scrambled to regain control, but control was the last thing they had, because the Iron Guardians had not come for violence, but they had come for justice, and nothing on earth intimidated a guardian when one of their own was hurt. The hallway grew eerily quiet except for the echoing boots of 40 bikers marching through Crestwood High in a terrifyingly calm procession as Ryder approached the end of the hallway and saw Amelia on the ground, her wheelchair dented, her backpack spilled, her hands trembling as she tried to gather her things. Ryder's jaw clenched so hard the muscles twitched, and he crouched beside her, gently picking up her fallen books while his brothers formed a protective wall behind him, their presence so overwhelming that some students nearly fainted. Who did this? Ryder asked softly, but the softness could not hide the fury burning beneath it, and before Amelia could answer, Brock stepped forward, swallowing hard but trying to keep his composure as he said, "This is a school, you can't just..." But he didn't finish because the guardian standing closest to him, a giant named Bear, took one slow step in his direction, and Brock instantly shut his mouth, shrinking backward. Ryder stood, helping Amelia adjust herself in the chair, and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder before turning toward the crowd and asking again, louder this time, "Who kicked my sister?" The silence was suffocating, but then a small freshman pointed at Brock with a trembling finger before ducking behind his friend, and all 40 bikers turned their heads toward Brock in unison, the synchronized movement making him stumble back in terror. Ryder didn't lunge, didn't shout, didn't raise a fist, he simply walked forward, calm and lethal, stopping inches from Brock and locking eyes with him, the hallway so quiet that Brock's shaky breathing was audible as Ryder said, in a voice low. "Enough to chill the blood, you picked on the wrong girl, and the wrong family." Students stared in awe as Brock, the feared bully of Crestwood High, trembled like a child caught in a storm, and even the teachers looked unsure whether to intervene or pretend they saw nothing as Ryder continued, "You want to hurt someone? Try hurting someone who hits back." Brock opened his mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to lie, but Ryder raised a hand, stopping him. "No talking," he said coldly, "you've done enough." Behind him, the bikers crossed their arms, forming a wall of muscle, leather, and unspoken threat while Amelia watched from her wheelchair, her fear slowly dissolving into a strange mix of shock, relief, and awe. No one had ever stood up for her like this, not students, not teachers, not staff, and now an entire biker brotherhood had stormed her school because of her, because she mattered. Because family was not defined by weakness or disability but by loyalty, fire, and love. Brock's face had gone ghost white as Ryder leaned in close and whispered something only he could hear, something that made Brock's knees buckle slightly, and though no one knew exactly what Ryder said, they understood one thing clearly: life at Crestwood High had just changed forever.